Hi students, this is Miss Coe again, and I'm going to read chapter 3 of Dragonwings. Chapter 3 is called The Dragonman, and the date is again April 1903. As Father led me up the stairs, I forgot about the demons, for I began to wonder again about his name, Wind Rider. Every Tang man can have several names. He has a family name and a personal name given to him at birth. He can have another name given to him when he comes of age, a nickname from his friends, and if he is a poet, he can have a pen name. We are not like the demons who lock a child into one name from birth, with maybe a nickname if he is lucky. We feel that a man should be able to change his name as he changes, the way a hermit crab can throw away his shell when it's too small and find another one. When Father stopped before our door, I asked him, "Why do they call you Wind Rider?" "Wait," he said, "you'll see. It's really a name I had before I was born in this life." He pushed open the door. He waited almost shyly by the doorway as I went inside. The room was only about 10 feet wide. By one wall were 2 mats and a trunk. A large, long table filled the opposite wall, while shelves covered the other 2 walls. There were piles of strange, thick, cloth-like paper of the demons on one corner of the table. I was used to the much thinner rice paper of the Tang people. Every other inch of space in the room was crowded with small, strangely constructed machines whose purpose I could not guess. I did not dare touch a thing. I thought that each machine was like a magical bottle or box, with demons waiting inside to burst out. Then Father became as excited as a small boy. He showed me each item, handling the strange machines as if he had tamed whatever demons were trapped inside. Though, even so, if I had been left alone in that room, I would have bolted. Father motioned to a demon machine whose guts lay scattered around a board. There were lumps of crystal connected by wires and other things. It looked like some strange magical pattern of great power. There was a wire band with a circular disc at either end. On the board was painted the word for sharing. I found out why when I heard of the Dragon King's throne. Father pointed to the band and discs. "Those are earphones," he touched the board. "This is a crystal set. Through this, we can talk through walls and across the city. They've already talked across the ocean." "Across the ocean?" "Yes. Can you talk to the Middle Kingdom?" Father's face softened. "No, boy. It was the demons' other ocean." Then Father showed me a device which he called an electric light. It consisted of a stand in which was set a globe of clear glass. Inside, filaments of burnt bamboo perched like a black insect. The guts of the light, they were really wires, led from the globe across the table, vanishing into the jumble of machines. Father dimmed the gas light. "Watch this," he said eagerly. He examined the table, gave a grunt when he found what he wanted, and turned a switch. I heard a click. Suddenly, the insect within the globe shone with a light that was so bright and intense that it hurt my eyes, and I cried out. Father turned off the switch. "What's wrong?" I didn't say anything, but Father realized I was scared from the way I was shaking. He put his arm around me, and I felt his reassuring bulk. He waved his free arm around at the room. All of these things are only toys. They're harmless. Because you learned the demons' magic to protect you? Father smiled and laughed softly. No, no. What's here belongs neither to us nor to the demons. It's only a form of a much greater and purer magic. It can do harm in the hands of a wrong man and lash back on him, but the superior man need not be afraid. But he could see from my face that I was not too sure about the devices in the room. He sighed and scratched the back of his head as if puzzled. Won't you take my word for it, boy? It's hard to order someone to believe, I added. Sir, we both felt stiff and awkward. Father spread his hands. Oh, hell, boy. I don't know much about being a father. I guess I don't know much about being your son, I said slowly. Yes, well, he nodded to me. I guess we'll have to learn together then. He sat down on the mat. But I can see I'll have to tell you about my name. Then you'll understand why you should not be afraid. He patted a place beside him. I sat down there. He nodded his head at the devices on the table. All of those are part of my name. The story was told to me by the Dragon King himself. Of course, not all dragons are evil, as I later discovered the demons think they are, for they can be good to you as well as bad. In fact, most dragons are good creatures who bring rain to the farmers when they soar up from the water and fly through the sky. Dragons can be kindly and wise, and quite unlike the fire-breathing, malicious, greedy creatures the white demons seem to think dragons are. There are some dragons that delight in harming other creatures, even their own kin. But the Dragon King himself is by and large a good creature who rules over all reptiles and the animals who live in the sea, and some say he is the head of all the other animals. The Dragon King is one creature you stay friends with, since he can cause earthquakes as well as floods and droughts. To have him personally tell you a story is quite an honor. You never wrote to us about the Dragon King, I said. It's hard to put such things into a letter, especially when the letter is read to your family by another person. I nodded, understanding. Father settled back against the wall. He put his hands behind his head so that his arms were bent and looked like wings. His face took on a strange expression, one I was to see only a few more times in the years to come. It was as if he were in another world and describing it to me, as if he were actually there seeing and hearing and feeling what was going on. That first night, Father said, that I had come to this land, there had been a feast for the group of us that had just arrived on the boat. Because of the late hours telling stories and the drinking, the others slept deeply, so no one could tell me the next day if I had really left. Father's story went like this. I had gone to sleep with the others, but I woke up to find myself on a strange beach. I scooped up some of the sand and saw that it was really tiny sapphires that made noises like laughter when I rubbed some of them between my palms. Behind me rose steep-sided mountains of amber, on which had been carved words of great power to try to bind the creatures who lived within. The giant animals moved about inside the mountains dimly, like shadows, huge, terrible shadows. The sea itself was still and calm. There was not the slightest surge of surf, and no wind stirred its surface. It was a strange, deep, troubling shade of green, as if it held the sunlight rather than reflected it. Then I looked around the beach and saw, drawn up in ranks, regiment after regiment of strange, silent, scaled soldiers. But I paid little attention to them, for there, lying in the middle of the beach, was a great dragon, perhaps 500 yards long. His great head lay pillowed against a sand dune, and a dozen or more soldiers waved their wicker shields, trying to fan cool air upon him. His head was long and shaped like that of a horse or a camel, with the great nostrils widened as he tried to breathe. His horns were like those of a deer, but they looked as if they had been carved of ivory. There were streamers of the red flesh of some luckless opponent still clinging to some of the points, though other soldiers were trying to clean them off. His ears were forked and twitched like those of a rabbit. His body was as long and powerful as that of a snake, but he had 4 heavy squat legs. The pad of each foot, though, was leather hard. Because this dragon had 5 gold-tipped claws, I knew him for the imperial dragon, for only royal family have 5 claws. All the other dragons are born with only 4. In the middle of his forehead was a great pearl, which gleamed like the moon on a cold, crisp autumn night. But its luster was fading. His vast chest heaved up and down, and his wings were folded onto his sides. The fine golden whiskers of his beard were still flecked with blood and his own sweat. He was also growing bald for a dragon. He was so old that the scales at the top of his head had begun to flake off and expose the soft golden skin beneath. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because I'm going to run out of time, and I'll read chapter 3, part 2 in the next video. And I would like you to be thinking about the relationship between Wind Rider and Moon Shadow, what's going on at the beginning of this conversation of part 1, and then how does it change when Wind Rider starts telling him about this vision that he had on his first night in America. So have that in mind as I read the rest of the story that Wind Rider is telling his son Moon Shadow. And we'll see you in the next video.